Welcome back to Tacking and Jiving. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And most important, sail fast. As always, I want to start by thanking the team. That's Malay, Robertico, Duarte, Rogelio, and everybody else that shares our comments, likes our videos and comments. And if you haven't, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment. Today, again, another very interesting interview with someone who we have gotten to know. We already done a Spanish interview with this athlete and all around sailor, and today it's my turn. So let's join in with Tania Calles. Hola, Tania, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
Good. So let's jump right into it.
Perfect.
So tell our audience who is Tania Calles, where are you from, where did you grow up, and how did you get started sailing?
Well, I was born in Mexico City. I am a 4-time Olympian from. Yeah, and I was born in a city that has no water, so it was a very casual thing. We had a friend in common that knew about sailing, and so she got us into this lake that's very close to the city, and they had sailing lessons over there. So we started sailing, but it was more of a activity that my family started or wanted my sister and I to get to know, and it was very never with the intention of doing it in a high performance level or anything.
That's very interesting that you were born in a city without water.
Yes.
Right, and grew up to be an Olympian sailor.
Yes, exactly.
Wow, that's very interesting. So we know that you started very early on sailing at a young age. How did that progress from, like you said, an activity into a sport that you passionately followed?
Well, I started competing in this lake very early when I was I think my first regatta. I started sailing when I was 6 and a half, 7, and then my first regatta was at maybe 8, 9 years old. And so they had weekend regattas every now and then. And suddenly I discovered this passion of being not only about the sport, but being very competitive. I wanted suddenly to be the best girl in Mexico in the young, like in the optic class. And that escalated one step at a time. Then I wanted to beat all the guys as well. and then I wanted to replicate that in the international level. So that kind of like gave me the steps, and every time I started getting a new goal, a new limit, a new challenge for myself, and trying to say, hey, can I try that? Can I be that and become this version that I'm imagining? And so that's how I started.
I'm glad you shared that, because as you can see, I titled the interview "Focused on Winning," because I recall from listening to the Spanish interview you did with our team, how focused you were, right? And you just told us, right? You wanted to be the best girl, and then you wanted to beat all the guys too, and then you wanted to go to an international, and always focused on winning. That's great to hear. So it is not every day an Olympic athlete and I share a coach. So tell us about working with Noel Guerra.
Oh, well, Noel, I think I met him when I was 15, exactly when I stopped sailing the optic class, and I did the switch into another class. I had this all this doubts in my head about what was going to happen after the optic class, because especially here in Mexico, it's really hard that transition. The Olympic classes are not very well developed. and in my times it was even more difficult.
Right.
So the only chance of getting into an Olympic path was the Europe class. That was the Olympic dinghy for the girls, and we didn't have that boat in Mexico, but we did have the laser radial. And Noel was here in Mexico training. He was hired as a national coach to coach the guys who were training for Atlanta in 1996.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got to Mexico, and it was the first time that we had a national coach. And I was 15 years old, so I got to the club and went to straight to him and said, "Hey, Noel, my name is Tania, and I want to get to the Olympics and be the best in the world one day." And I was like, just straight like this. I'm really, really shy, so it really took a lot of courage to go to him and say this. And those words that he told me, I think, were the thing that broke the way of how I saw my career and the way I fought for what I achieved. Because what he said was, I think you will never get to be the best in the world because you are too short. You are very, very short. And he just said it like straight like that, like an arrow that went straight to my heart. But like that was the key words. It's incredible that those, you can take that as a negative thing or you can take that as a challenge. And I took it as a challenge, and since then I said, hey, I think I'm gonna prove you wrong. And I started training with him. I started joining the team with the laser standards. I got a radial sail, and I started training with them. It was really, really hard, and but I just fought for it, and I started training in the gym and going to the Olympic Committee where he was living here in Mexico City, and just step by step training with him until he changed his mind and said, "Hey, this girl, she might have something that we might be able to switch it."
You know, I'm. You said something that it resonates, and I've heard this multiple times. A coach can be and make it or break it. You know, a coach can build you up or bring you down. And they, you know, as a coach, I'm sure they speak all day, right? To many athletes, and they don't know. They may not know ever, right? What triggers on the athlete that triggered you to say, no, 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 no. I'm going to work for it. I'm going to make it happen. Or, you know, what brings them down and makes them, you know, maybe perhaps go away. But it's like you said, it's on you to take that and make it a positive or a negative.
Yeah, well, yes, totally. But also, I think I'm really grateful for the coaches and all the people who always say the truth. That don't go through like any other roads. Just go
Right.
straight to the point and tell you the truth. Because I think to get to big goals and to achieve big things, you really need to be realistic and know where you are and how difficult and what the path will be like. Because some people like to just pat you on the back and say nice things,
It
but
doesn't help you.
it
Right.
doesn't really help you. Yeah.
I agree. So let's go to the fun stuff.
Okay, perfect.
You have a long list of events that you have participated on. Can you tell us, excuse me, which one of these events is the most memorable for you, and why?
Yeah. Well, I think I cannot choose only one. I believe that
Okay.
that there are three events that really changed my life. I think the first one was the Central American Games in 1998. That was the first 2 years that I was training with Noel, and I won the gold medal in the Central American Games, and it was something that was. Uh, as many people said, it was not achievable because it was in a venue with a lot of wind, and I was very short, and there was a lot of girls that had been training in the radio for many years, and we won the gold medal, and that really changed the way I looked at things and said, hey, I can do this, and I'm gonna fight for it. So that was like the first step. The second event that's very memorable is the Cascais Worlds in 2007. That was the year before Beijing Olympics, and I won. I got the sixth place, but I got into the medal race 2 points behind the leader. So I was winning the event for a couple of days, and I was fighting for the podium, and it was a really really great event in level, and also a very windy venue, which was it's ridiculous because when you say you're a very short athlete, and then your strength becomes what everyone would say would be your weakness. It was a fantastic event for me. I remember going into a press conference. They took the best girls in the overall standings, and I was with Ligia and with and Sophie from France.
Mm-hmm.
I was in first at that moment, and so I had to stand up. Like when they were taking the picture, I had to stand with one foot and the other in a chair, so that I could be at the same height, and
Wow.
it was a great feeling. And but definitely the most memorable will be the medal race in London. That was the pinnacle of my
Yeah.
career.
This is not one of the questions we discussed, but I wanted to ask you since you talked about it. You said about how that win in the Central American Games make you switch your mind, right? Like it switched something on you that you said, I can do this. Can you tell us about this?
Um, I think it comes in two ways. I think it comes in external voices. It's what other people are saying or thinking about your performance or your person or your personality or just external things, and your internal things. That's the other side of the coin. And I think sometimes we put attention too much on the external things, and we base our beliefs in things that someone else believes instead of what we think. And for me, believing in myself in that event, knowing that I could do it, because it was my first international event in that level, and internally I knew I could do it. I knew it was going to be difficult because of
Right.
the wind and because of the rivals, but I knew internally that I could do it. It was something that it kind of goes through your gut feeling, and you base it on your preparation and everything that you've done before, and you have a chance. But then it's that thing that goes, like, when you believe in yourself, that I think that's the key. And when you think about, or you get those comments from the external people, you get them into your head, and everything starts to doubt.
I I will probably one day have time to look back at all these interviews that I've been doing with other champions like yourself, and there is a common theme about that. That switch in your mind that says, I can do this, and then you go on to and then you make a big jump, in performance, and perhaps it's like you give yourself permission to win, right? You're just like, you know what, I can do this. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what my conditions are, whether it's physical or equipment or the weather. I can do this, and it becomes a game changing.
Yeah,
Very
completely.
interesting. All right, so last time we had an interview with you. You told us about this epic sailing you did from Baja California to Puerto Vallarta. It was.
Yes.
Can you tell us about this?
Okay. Yeah. That was it was well, it goes. The idea comes uh, long before that. Thing is that I was on that Olympic campaign for Beijing. I actually achieved my dream. I became the best in the world. I was top in the world ranking. I was favored to win a medal, and then boom, I injured my Achilles tendon, and then everything went to down.
Right.
And I went to Beijing, but I didn't perform as I could have. And so as when I came back home, all the sponsors and all the sports institute just said, well, Tania, thank you very much, have a good life, and blah blah. So and I was left with nothing, and I really wanted to try give me one more chance, try it once again. And but I didn't have any support, any funding, so I needed to do something really critical that was fast in time, in the short term, that had results quickly, to gain the interest of sponsorships, and then get the funding so that I could prepare for London in whatever time I had left. So so that was the idea, a crazy idea. Okay, what can I do? Okay, why not do something crazy,
Right.
that's gonna really call the attention of the media and everything, and that can give me some sponsors. So so I decided to sail my laser from Cabo. So it's a peninsula on the Pacific coast, in a straight line to Vallarta, where I was living.
How far is that?
That's 300 nautical miles. And so it's a straight line, and the winds are pretty steady in that zone. So
Right.
I was going to be sailing on more or less a reach or a downwind most of the time. And we calculated with the winds that were probably going to be during that time, maybe something around three to 5 days around that time. And then so I started looking into breaking a world record to give it like a little of spice and more interest.
Right.
And so I started Googling and trying to find out what was the last record. And I found out that there was a Brazilian, a couple of friends that did something coasting in the Brazilian coast, and did some 220 miles, nautical miles. And that was the record. That was the past record. They did it in I believe it was in a winter. So it was it qualified because of the length. So it was so I applied, and they approved it, and they said, okay, you have two options. We can certify your record in two ways. If you want the person, the judge, to go and certify it right there, you need to pay $10,000 per day.
Per day.
Per day.
You're trying to raise money.
Exactly. Plus expenses, plus everything. And I said, okay,
of course.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna raise money. I think I'm gonna spend everything that I raise to give it to this guy, so that I can get the paper the day I get there. So I said, okay, that's not the option. What's the other option? The other option is to give a lot of like testimonies, and have a notary in the way out, and the day I arrive, and then what else? Well, photos and videos, and the GPS proof, and like a long list of things. And I said, okay, it's a long list of things, but I think that's
affordable.
That's easy. So I got it, and then it was a logistic problem, because I had to take the laser there, and it was like one and a thing after the other. But then I started sailing end of February in 2010, and it took me about 3 days to get to Vallarta. It was very, very windy the first day and a half, very close to the peninsula, very, very windy. I'm talking about 20 plus knots. Wow. And the waves, really big waves out there, and very unstable. So all my plan of sleeping every 4 hours was trash. So I couldn't even sleep. I was getting into this fatigue limit. And so I started hallucinating. I saw aliens at one point. I saw some rocks in the middle of the ocean, and so I started imagining things. But it was just at some periods, but it was amazing. I got to see whales. I got to see sail over plankton. It was just a fantastic experience in total darkness, and sailing at really high speed on top of this water. and just splashing like this colored
Right.
flashy thing everywhere. It was fantastic
So you
experience.
were planning to sleep, like basically, how would you be planning to sleep?
Well, yeah, that was my idea was to sleep on. So putting my legs on where the rudder is, then all my body in the cockpit, and then my
Right.
head where the centerboard is. That was
Right.
one option. Taking all the main sheet out so that the sail could
Right.
flap freely. But that was impossible because the waves were crashing into the boat, and it was moving a lot. And then so I could just sleep in a very small moments
Right.
of the journey where it was very light. That
Right.
was the second day. It got really hot and very light, and so I slept in like in a diagonal on top of the boat with my head
Right.
and my feet on the water. Really.
Did you have any uh, a crew with you following you?
Well, yeah, the record is without assistance, so I was
Oh
pushing
wow.
hard to do it without completely assistance. So I had to take all my water and my GPS and everything. But the authorities, the port captain here in Mexico, wouldn't let me do that. He said that it was his responsibility as a captain to let me go like this, and he prohibited that. So he said, I would let you go and do your record, and you could be on your own and sail on your own, but you have to have someone around that doesn't have to be next to you, but
Right.
just checking if everything's okay. So yeah, that was one of the other problems because I had to get an like try to find a big boat and try to find the crew and people who would like to go sail with me for 3 days.
Right. I mean,
Vallarta.
it's an extreme uh, adventure. I'm sure it was fun after it's finished, but it's there was potential for danger, right? You could have fallen asleep, falling off the boat,
Yes.
you name it, right? So wow, and 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 I must say that I think everyone should acknowledge the amount of courage that it takes to do something like this, not for the price, but because you had something else that you wanted to achieve. You did this crazy adventure in order to raise money, in order to go to the Olympics one more time.
Yes, exactly.
Not for your vanity, not to be popular on the news, but because you wanted to sail again, basically. So
Yes, yes,
that's amazing.
exactly. And but that actually that gave me the strength every time that something went wrong. That was in my head. It was like how bad do you want to go to the Olympics again? So get up and do it. To get
Right.
up and keep sailing.
All right. So let's switch gears a little bit. So with not so many, not too young anymore audience that we have, uh, tell us if you still do any physical training. Is there any tactical training that you still participate on? What is your training routine like these days?
Yes, I try to keep active. Since I retired, I always when you're an athlete, you have this stamina and you can't stop. It's really hard to stop completely and become a just a steady person. And I love CrossFit. I think it's a
Okay.
fantastic activity because they always have a routine there, and because I have this competitive feeling, having another people around and just trying to get your best time without really pushing as hard as being a high performance athlete.
Right.
It makes it fun, and it makes it good for the health, and it makes me happy.
So CrossFit. All right. Um, so if you had a chance to speak to a 12-year-old boy or girl, and he or she asks you about sailing, what would you tell this young person?
Well, I think it would depend on if they do sail, if they want to try to go into competitions, or if just like sailing. I think they're two different things. I think competition in sailing is it's one of the in my point of view, it's one of the most complete sports because it has a lot of variables that we do not control. You go into an area in nature that you don't really know. You can predict, you can know, you can practice, but it's always unpredictable. It always have factors, and it will always be different, which makes our sports fantastic. But if it goes into the just liking sailing part of it, I think as well it's recommending to keep doing it the rest of his life, because it gives you the sensation of really contact with nature, which not many sports give the opportunity to feel.
I agree. This topic comes a lot in our interviews. That connection with nature, that freedom out in the ocean, and also as we learned on I think it was the first interview that we had with Noel, the complexities of the sport. That it's, as you mentioned, is one of the most complete sports because you can never really count on the terrain being the same, right? The waves can be different, the current, the wind. So it's a very challenging sport for sure.
Yeah, and I believe it's also a challenging sport that prepares you for life, because that's life. You never know what you're gonna get, and you have to be trying to think forward 2 steps ahead, and that's sailing. You have to
I like that.
The scenarios that are coming, and it's taking decisions right in the moment, but really thinking ahead of what you want, where you want to go.
I like that. The waves are coming, right? In regular life, the waves are coming, and you have to make a decision right at the moment, thinking about the moment, but also thinking ahead.
Exactly.
Really like it. Something else that you would like to tell us about yourself or your career or sailing in general?
Well, if I think it goes all together. I think having the experience that I have with the four Olympics that I went to, it goes like, what I want to share is that it's fantastic to what with your experience to share with the rest of the people. So try to what you learn, share it with another generations, and just trying to get the new kids or the new athletes that are coming forward to learn from what your mistakes or everything else. So I would encourage athletes or coaches or people who knew about sailing or got to some great place to share it with someone else, so that we can get the sport better and bigger.
And who should we interview next?
Ooh, that question got me thinking, because I would love to hear from a lot of people. I'm not really sure all the people that you've been interviewed before, but one person that I really truly admire is Santiago Lange from Argentina. I don't know if you've interviewed him.
We've been working on that on the Spanish side.
Yeah, well, Santiago I think he has a really cool story to tell that can inspire lots of people, and not only in sailing but in life. I would recommend also Bruno Fontes from Brazil.
I'm following him on Instagram and Facebook.
Yes, I think he's a really, really good friend of mine, and I admire him a lot as well, because he had a huge challenge. I think he's a fantastic sailor and has a really great level, but he had like the best in the world next to him to get to his dream, and it's fantastic what he did, and I love his career, and I really admire what he's doing. So I would recommend those two.
Okay, maybe we can talk to him together into giving us some time.
All right, super.
To interview him. Well, Tania, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you sharing your experience and how you were able and you have been able to match your sailing learnings into normal life, and that makes you focused on winning. So thank you.
Exactly. No, thank you for your time.
Take care.
Bye bye.